Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the channel again. This week's painting, I'm going on to one of my favourite subject matters of all time, and I've painted many of them in the past, seascapes with boats and harbours and things like that. As you can see from the bod, I'm looking at a sheet of paper which is 1/4 of the whole of my sheets that I buy of the Fabriano paper. And it's not far off about A3 in size, something along those lines. And as always, what we're going to do today with the watercolour exercise is look at the way that we layer all the way through this painting process, from the sky to the background area in the landscape in the distance, and also when we start coming further forward into the foreground with the water, the ripple effect and things like that, and the reflections of the boats. Nice amount of water on there. Sky today is quite thunderous, where the boats were moored in the harbour area. The sky in the background, it really did look like it was going to absolutely Evans open up moment, and everything, we were going to get drenched. I remember taking the photograph now as well. So we've got that wash down, so we'll just let that seep in. As I said, it's a very thunderous sky this, and so we're going to be using the French Ultramarine, but we will be adding that neutral tint, and we want to be looking at probably some cadmium yellow and a little bit of red. If you watched last week's video, you'll remember that we did the sunset, and I used most of my cadmium yellow that was already in the palette. Here we go. Let's get this thunderous sky in. Skies generally are always predominantly darker higher up as we go up into the higher echelons of the atmosphere. They contain the most darkness, and then as we come down more towards the horizon, things get a little bit lighter. In general, that's the golden rule usually. There are obviously some instances where that might be different, but generally that's the case. So as you can see already, we're starting to use the colours, taking effect, creating the sky that we want. Working onto the wash quite quickly before it's completely dried, and you'll notice the different ways that we can create a different sky feel just by adding the paint at certain times, depending on when that initial wash dries or becomes drier, yet still has some moisture in it that's been held by the paper. The area down here now, I'm just going to treat with a lighter blue, just to indicate slightly different cloud formation as well, isn't it? As you can see, the one above is the thunderous clouds that are passing over, whereas in the distance it was more wispy and sort of echoes a different part of the day when before the thunderclouds arrived. This was the remnants of what went before. And what you'll notice I'm doing, I'm deliberately trying to keep the area down here quite light so that we get that natural darkening at the top there, coming down and down and down and down until we get into this area down here, which is basically the horizon line, and the far off distance, which is the furthest that the eye can see, that will be at the palest and the lightest. So we use the white of the paper to indicate that. So the white of the paper is almost the lightest of the lights. Just keep dotting in little bits, little flecks of colour over here. Before this dries up here now, I'm going to go in there and go darker, because that's the top area of my image. And this is also an area where I'm going to add in a little bit of warmth. So here we go, darken up. Let's darken up while it's still wet. I've not waited for this one to dry and then go over in it again, because the overall image this sky is portraying is one of diffusement and fluffiness, if you like, and this effect, and doing it this way will give us that effect that we want. So a little bit of darkness down here. Softly adding extra elements and volume of colour from the brush, paint, just to build it up. Nothing too much, nice and delicate. Keep going in, adding little bits as we go. And what I will do now is this is where we come to the cadmium yellow, the warming element. I just want a little bit of colour here. I want to add that to some of that blue so we get that. I'm just going to bring some of this colour now into here. To add it on. There we go. Not too much. The warmth area, which is coming from the sun, which is over on the left over there, is coming across here, and I just want just a small amount of it. Okay, that'll do for me now. That's my sky. That's all done. We'll let that dry now, and then we'll come back to it in a moment. But I'm happy with that. As you can see, it didn't take too long. We put the wash down, didn't we? And let it dry just for a few moments, not too long, and then blodged on the colour bit by bit, and we're getting that nice diffused, fluffy effect. Now I'm going to work on the background furthest away, that really distant hill over there. I'm just going to drop that in really loosely. And again, this is distant, so the colour and the intensity of everything is dissipated almost into sort of a silhouette shadow effect. So we don't want to be going into too much detail and of colour as well, because we want to keep that intensity down. Yet we still want to create the effect of the silhouetting. Just one body of colour for the the distant hill over there, knocked back, starting with the sort of blue, adding a little bit of yellow in there just to give it a slight feel of land mass. There we go. And a little bit of neutral tint just to darken it back a little bit. And then overall, as you can see from the palette, just adding the water into the mixing area there, into the centre of the palette. The further we go with more water, the more it lessens and dissipates in intensity. And we'll let that dry, and then we're going to add the next little landmass over there in the distance. That's further forward than the one in the back, so we're going to increase the intensity of that by adding a little bit more strength with good colour. I am sat today as well, guys, at the desk. Had a little bit of pain with the osteoarthritis and the hips over the last few days, so I'm just taking a bit of a seating position just to help, and I'll go as long as I can. Might need to stand in it a little bit, we'll see. One thing's for sure, we'll be having a break soon, and you know what happens when we have a break. So just mixing now in readiness the next little bit of landmass, and we're going to add in a little bit more yellow now into the mix. There we go. Bring some of that in. That's the sort of colour that we want. That looks a little bit grey and a little bit, you know, a little bit dull, doesn't it? But it is the perfect colour to indicate land further away in the distance. Just enough green to suggest that it's land and it has vegetation and things like that, but just enough of the blue to knock it back, and then just enough of the neutral tint to darken it a little bit as well. What I'm going to do next is work on the water. I'm going to go straight into it. So get masses of our blue ultramarine into the centre of the palette. And we're going to be ready with our cadmium yellow to bring in using the side of the rush there. As you can see, there's a little technique, so it helps to sort of just put the paint on very lightly and very loosely, and it's sort of scratching the surface of the paper. It's helping to create, the roughness of the paper is helping to create those little pockets of white, which is giving that glistening effect of the light hitting the water, as you can see there. As I come down here now, we're going to darken up. We're coming into the foreground area. A blue over here, just a touch. And we'll have a little bit over here as well. The area here that I've indicated is basically the too soon. Nice and loose, keeping it nice. There we go. That'll do nicely. Other side. Same colour. Let's take it over here. Okay, that's my base of my water. The main sort of tonal range and colours that I'm going to use. And then I'm just going to build on that slightly. Things are starting to come together really nice now. I'm really happy with that. That's my sky done, and we've let that's drying nicely. And we've done the elements just in there, the distance, as you can see, nice and simple. Just a couple of strokes across there, and then just a little bit here. We've dropped in the colours for the sea and in this harbour area here with some nice light reflecting on the top of it. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to work into the water again, just with a few more sort of strokes just around here, nice and simple. And we'll work into this reflection just here and shortly as well. And then after that, we'll let that dry again, and then we'll finish off with the boats themselves. Just going to work over this first initial wash now of the water there and the waves and just that glistening of that light that's coming through, and we'll go from there. Ultramarine blue. So get plenty of it into the palette now, into the centre. Beautiful ultramarine. Bring it into my palette, into the centre there. A nice reservoir of colour. And I'll bring in a little bit of this green over here now. Water does tend to be one of those areas of a painting and your subject matter where I do use a straight green with ultramarine to give the aqua effect. Just using that smaller brush at the side of it just to keep trying to create the effect of that glistening on the water. So that's helping because it's using the white of the paper coming through and the roughness and texture with the contact of the brush just to help create that effect. And then as we come down here, we're coming down more towards the shoreline, and we want to bring in a little bit of warmth and yellow. Just here. Using a little bit of that cadmium yellow now into the mix. There we go. Good strength of colour there. And the strength and brightness of that colour will pop it forward in the overall finish of the image. The illusion of depth is now being created and we're coming forward into it. So some more yellow there. Exactly. That's what we want. So to create the illusion of distance from things in the front to things far away is not just about the strength of the amount of colour that you put down, but also the tonal range and the vibrancy. I'm just going to add in some little flecks of colour now, just in here. There we go. That's the green I'm looking for. Nothing too intricate. Just work into it very, very loosely, very lightly. Just bring it together. Okay, there. Just a few little flecks of ripples, if you like, just to give it the effect of the water. There's a little bit of shadowing effect going on, which will eventually come around to this side as well. We'll come to that once it's dried. Okay, let's leave that for now and let that dry, and then we'll start working on the boats. Okay, now that that's dried, I'm just going to use the finer brush and add in just a little bit of shadowing. Okay. Use my finest of brushes now to work on the boats. And it's just going to flick in a little bit of detail and a little bit just to create the feeling of form. So I'm going to finish off now with the very last element of this scene, and that's the boat in the foreground. We'll quickly just drop in some colour onto there, and hopefully with the shadow that we've already placed onto that water, we'll get a nice effect of that boat really being in the foreground and popping. This is kind of like the central subject matter of this image, so here we go. The cadmium yellow there, as you can see, as I add it, it will brighten up the tan orangey colour that will create sort of a brown, which indicates the wooden elements of the boat. Add in a little bit of the Alizarin crimson just to darken it in that area and bring in a little bit of neutral tint. So we get a darker brown, and we'll bring that over here. a little field sketch. Well, I say field sketch, it's more like a water harbour sketch, isn't it? A water harbour colour sketch, let's call it that. Let's recap as well. So we started again at the top with the wash there and added in a very, very sort of diffuse sky. And then we let that dry a little bit, but we still had a little bit of moisture there, didn't we? And we put in another heavy amount of dark colour with the ultramarine and some of that neutral tint to really give it sort of a thunderous feel, didn't we? A little bit of warmth, as you can see just there, where I brought in a little bit of cadmium yellow and mixed it with a touch of red, just to add a little bit of sunlight warmth, even in that, you know, very, very thunderous, heavy cloud. As we came down here, we knocked it back a little bit, didn't we? And we got lighter and lighter and a little bit less definition in there, which has given that distant feel of the horizon with the light over there, creating that depth, as you can see. A simple line there, a brush stroke almost, with a little bit of fill colour for that background horizon line of that hill there over there, and then another one a little bit further forward. We came down, didn't we, and put some washes in using the French ultramarine and the green, just a mix there to give that aqua feel. And as we came further down into here, we added a little bit of the cadmium yellow into the mix just to give a little bit more vibrancy, and it's instantly popped it forward. The technique here, didn't we? We used the side of the brush just a little bit, and it's given us that little glistening effect of the light on top of the water, sort of in the ripples there, just gleaming. And that was quite a simple technique that we did there very, very quickly. Adding the shadow in, which has helped make that boat pop, and then we put in the detail, didn't we, of just the boats, just an indication. A little bit of line work for the masts as well, didn't we? And then here we've just put in that little dabs of detail sort of there, and a little bit of line work very quickly for that front boat right there in the foreground. And to finish off, we've just dropped in a nice slash of nice line of paint there just to indicate that rope, and happy with that. I hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks for watching today, guys. It's been a real pleasure as always, and keep sending your comments in for anything that you'd like to know about what I've done today in this tutorial. I love doing seascapes, harbours and boats and things like that, so it's really nice after such a long time to be able to do one again. I felt a little bit rusty myself, to be honest with you. Nice little seascape sketch there, and later on, further down the line, when we do more tutorials, I'm going to be doing bigger scenes with a lot more going on, and the rules of simplification are almost evident, and it's so important to kind of simplify things, and we've done it again today, haven't we, with the layering effect that we've got, building things up, but not too much. It always depends on the amount of detail and what you want to put into your final picture. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. Until next time, I hope your creative journey is going really, really well for you, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.